Reading books, definitely a hobby. Buying books, not reading them. Buying more books, also a hobby.
Hi, hello, and welcome to today's video. Today I want to discuss something that I've been seeing more and more all across the internet, specifically on BookTube and on Bookstagram, BookTok, etc., the bookish side of the internet. You may have noticed this trend by now, but once a hobby becomes TikTokified, it also becomes an endless cycle of buying, of consumption, of new. That being said, one of the biggest debates going around BookTok at the moment is, can you even overconsume books? At first glance, this question seems almost ridiculous to even be asking. Books are literature, they're academics, they're self-improvement, it's a relaxing hobby to do at the end of the day. How could there be anything wrong with books? The simple answer is that there isn't, but the long answer is that there has been a slow shift happening on the internet where it becomes less about reading books and more about having books. I've seen 700 book TBRs, 100 plus book hauls, buying books every day, buying books for fall, buying books for winter, buying books because I'm sad, buying books because I'm happy, etc., until we see more people buying books than we see them reading books. I think that this is the kind of behavior that we really need to be zooming in on here. Today, I really want to sit down and look at both sides of this argument. Can you overconsume books, and where is the line? When do you go from being a reader to a buyer? First, let's zoom out. This isn't just about books. This is about internet culture as a whole. Once a hobby becomes idealized online, the algorithm starts to reward aesthetics, hauls, novelty. If it's not new, it's not shiny. And if it's not shiny, nobody's watching it. We see this all across niches. There's color talk, where people own 500 markers and 30 coloring books, or gym talk, where we have full closets of athletic wear, whenever realistically, you're only wearing 7 sets a week. We can also tie this back even further to the early days of YouTube, where beauty influencers would have drawers and drawers and drawers of unopened product that was constantly being sent to them from brands. For as long as content creation and influencers have been around, they have been telling us the indirect or direct message of buy. The more you buy, the more likely you are to be like me. If you buy this, you'll be cool. If you buy that, you'll be hot. If you buy this, you'll be admired. If you buy this, you'll be beautiful, etc. At the end of the day, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, those are businesses, and they make money by making other companies money. The more lucrative these platforms are, the more everybody is benefiting, except for, of course, the consumer. And BookTok is no exception, no matter what you want to think. Big hauls, aesthetic shelf tours, giant stacks of books, shop with me's, these are the videos that get the most views, not reflections on one book, or here's my favorite book of the year. Sure, if you're a big creator, these videos might get pushed out because it's been proven that your content already does well. But if you're a small creator, these are not the videos that get rewarded. These are not the videos that get you more followers, more revenue in front of more people. This pushes creators, even unintentionally or subconsciously, to continue to consume at a rate that exceeds their personal demand. Now, if you're not 100% sure, I'm just going to go ahead and define overconsumption for a second. Overconsumption is the action of consuming something to an excess. This means that the thing that you're consuming might not be harmful. The thing that you're consuming might not even be harmful to the environment. It might not be harmful to you. It might not be harmful to others. But if you are consuming it in an excess, it is overconsumption. There's no way around that. In the context of books, this could be hauling 20 books a month, whereas you're realistically only reading 8. Or having 200, 300, 700 books on your shelves that you are realistically never going to read. Even if you read 100 books a year, it would take you 7 years to read 700 books off of your physical TBR. Now, is it really realistic to think that you are going to read only from what you own for 7 straight years once you're already in the pattern and habit of consuming? Personally, I don't think so. And not to mention, your book taste will change. A book that you enjoyed 7 years ago today, you likely will not enjoy today. And a book that you enjoyed today, you likely will not enjoy as much 7 years from today. We are constantly growing and expanding our minds, and our interests are inevitably going to change. And none of this is wrong or an inherent fault or shortcoming, it's just human nature. And it does make us raise the question, what do you like more, reading or buying books? The heart of the issue is that whenever your consumption exceeds your personal demand, it is no longer going to be sustainable. However, many people still like to argue that it is impossible to overconsume books. I think that we should be wary of labeling any one thing as impossible. But, like I already said, reading is pretty universally framed as a positive. It improves your knowledge, your vocabulary, your empathy. It brings you to new worlds. It's a fun pastime. It is an inherently good and positive thing to do for yourself. It is also associated with intelligence and status. The types of books that you read put out an outward image of who you are, who you like to surround yourself with. It is a form of self-expression at the end of the day. It is easy to hold the belief that unlike something like fast fashion, books are timeless. You collect them. You're going to have them for forever. Having shelves full of books in your home is culturally aspirational, even if they're unread. Think of a home library, an aesthetic, cozy chair by a shelf. It signals to every single person who enters your home, hi, I'm well read, I'm educated. And unlike hobbies with disposable goods such as makeup or fast fashion, or those people who like to buy a lot of skincare products in advance even though they only have a year shelf life, books don't really expire. You can keep them for forever and ever and ever. There are libraries in the world that hold books that are over 1,000 years old, and they are still with us today. I've also heard the argument that books are not wasteful and that people don't throw away books. And while that might be true on the surface level, I've certainly never seen a book lover take a pile of books off their shelves and throw them directly in the trash. Let's say that they donate them to the thrift store or to their local shelters, or they give them to friends and family or little free libraries. There's a multitude of things to do with these books, but what's to say that they won't eventually end up in the trash? What happens whenever these books ultimately don't get sold at the thrift store? It's impossible for them all to be sold. What are they going to do with these items? Because, as far as I know, they're going to turn around and throw them in the trash. I think it is an inherently naive mindset to think that no books will ever end up in landfills. But let's pretend that they don't. It also takes energy to produce these books. Materials, paper, ink, glue, machinery. We can't say that there is no waste being produced in the production of books. It is inherently impossible. And I know that I just said that nothing is really impossible, but let's use some context clues to see the difference in the way that those words were used. And sure, let's say you never get rid of your books. I still believe that a personal limit exists. And in my opinion, what sets that limit is both your habits and your intentions. Why are you buying so many books? Is it because you genuinely think that you will love them and read them? Or is it because you think that it's good content, or because you think it's what you should be doing? Are you buying 100 books a year and reading 10 of them? Or are you buying 100 books a year and reading 80 of them? These are all valuable considerations to take. And there's no one right answer across the board. Every single person is going to have a different answer, a different set of circumstances, a different mindset. If your book hauls outpace your reading so much that you have hundreds of untouched books on your shelves, or if you're reading at a speed to where you can't actually process what you're reading, then your consumption might outweigh your demand. Now, like I said, hauls are a huge culprit. A 5-book haul might not go viral. However, a 50-book haul, you have a pretty good chance. Creators, particularly ones who are relying on these platforms to pay their bills, might feel the pressure to consume more and more and more just to keep up. What might have started as a genuine hobby and passion is now just another race to be as aesthetic as you possibly can be. And now, this doesn't mean that hauls are bad. Hauls inspire recommendations. They convince people to pick up books that they might not have otherwise. And also, at the end of the day, they're fun. But when hauls become the main form of content that we're consuming, we have to be careful to not let them influence us too much. I think it's also interesting to see how many types of bookish hauls have come out in the past few years. We have the fall haul, the summer haul, the Christmas haul, I'm sad, come shopping with me haul, the I did a basic task and now I want a reward haul. We really have come up with every single reason and justification to go buy a book. And when our purchases feel justified, it's hard to then look at them and view ourselves as over-consuming. And again, this happens across all niches. BookTok is not unique to this. And it is a big culprit of emotional buying versus rational buying. One argument that I saw that didn't quite sit right with me was the idea that people can buy what they want to buy. Buying books isn't different than from collecting anything else. However, I kind of have a hard time seeing it that way. You know, people collect snow globes from places they've been, or figures connected to a movie that they really love, t-shirts from concerts they've been to. These are all things that are tied to something that you love. And the process of owning that thing is the process of consuming it. There's no extra step. However, whenever we make collecting books their primary purpose versus reading them, I feel like we've lost the plot just a little bit. While books are beautiful and very fun to own, they're not necessarily all collectible items. Sure, a special edition copy or a signed book, those are collectibles, but just a standard copy of Flawless that you get from Target for $13, I wouldn't necessarily classify that as a collectible. And I know that it is also impossible to have this conversation without addressing the genderedness of this debate. Men's hobbies are hardly ever, if ever, looked at under such scrutiny. Men are hardly ever told that they're over-consuming whenever they buy 30 watches that they never wear, or another set of golf clubs, or another luxury cologne that has a shelf life of a year. I think that this is important to acknowledge, and I do think that that is where some of the pushback comes from in this conversation, because we think, just let girls have what they want. Let girls buy what they want to buy. And while this is completely valid, I don't think that we should be using this as the kind of scapegoat to just not let us think critically about our decisions and our purchases. That being said, there is more to buy within the bookish community than just books. Books are only the surface level, because now we have the merch, we have the tote bags, the coffee mugs, the bookmarks, the Kindle cases, the multiple Kindles. Have we seen that one? We also have the shelf decor, which really has nothing to do with books at all. It's stuffed animals or trinkets or little baskets to put more things into. And again, none of this is inherently bad, but I do think that it is important that we look at the reasons as to why we're buying these things and how much of it we're buying. Do you really need every Throne of Glass t-shirt that you see? Probably not. And do you need another reading journal whenever you didn't even fill out last year's? Also, probably not. And I myself have a pretty big TBR, shelf accessories, bookish merch, because it's fun. It is fun. Not to mention that once a hobby becomes idealized online, there is an ever-moving goalpost and barriers to entry. Even the people who are readers on the internet constantly get told that they're not doing it right. If you read romance, then it's not real literature. If you read Charlotte Bronte, then it's performative. If you annotate, then you're trying too hard. If you don't annotate, then you're not engaging deeply enough with what you're reading. There are constantly new standards and checkpoints that you have to reach before you can be classified as a real reader. And what some of us may not notice is that a lot of these are also driven by consumption. Companies want to sell you things. They want to sell you highlighters, they want to sell you books, they want to sell you merch, they want to sell you journals, they want to sell you anything that they can. Kindle cases, pop sockets. The minute they think of it, that's the next new thing that you need to be a real reader. Ignoring the fact that all you really need to be a reader is a book. And I don't really care where you get it from. You can buy it, you can go to your library, you can have one book, you can have 10 books, you can have 1,000 books. If you're reading them, then you're a reader. That's that. So where is the line between hobby and hoarding? Ultimately, as with any hobby, of course there can be overconsumption on BookTok, but that's going to look different for everybody. And I think the best thing that we can do is to look inwards and ask ourselves 3 questions. 1, are you buying more than you can genuinely consume? 2, why are you buying? Is this bringing you joy, or is it mainly a pressure to keep up? And 3, is your focus on the books and in reading them, or is your focus on being perceived as a reader? If any of your answers lead towards excess, it might be time to take a look at yourself and reevaluate your priorities. Overconsumption exists in every hobby, but this doesn't mean that you should stop buying books or that wanting a home library is a bad thing. I would like a home library. It just means that every so often we should pause and check in with ourselves. See why you're consuming what you're consuming. At the end of the day, reading should be about connection to the stories, to ourselves, and to the community around us. It's not about chasing numbers or views or aesthetics. So yes, I do believe that a limit exists, but it's not the same limit for everybody. And the key is to making sure that your consumption matches your actual joy and interest in the hobby. And if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. One of the things I love to do in life is debate, and I do think that this is definitely a multifaceted conversation that cannot be covered all in this one video. I know I have more opinions than this. I know you probably have more opinions than this. So let me know in the comments, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.